Well, as you know, Sarah just got back from Oahu, Hawaii. And so for today's What to See with Sarah G, she's going to explore this area that she's very familiar with. I'm just coming back from it and just having a great time there. So,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead, Sarah. Let's hear all about the places to see and do in Oahu.
Well, Oahu is the third largest island of the Hawaiian Islands, with about 70% of Hawaii's population living there. So some people who live there actually call it the city and country island. Honolulu has about 70% of the island's population, and then the remaining parts, such as the North Shore, really do feel like you're out in the country. So it's a cool island to check out. And I also think it's probably one of the easiest to get to because a lot of people just think, oh, I'm going to fly into Honolulu, and that's where Honolulu is the island of Oahu. So, like Adam said, I just got back from a trip, but I've been to Hawaii once before and stayed on this island as well. So, this time around, I stayed with a friend. So, I didn't really have an accommodation to worry about, just stayed at her place. But I have stayed at the Turtle Bay Resort in the North Shore. So, this is a hotel. If you're thinking about staying on the North Shore side, this is where they filmed Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
I
Yes, I have
fucking
seen this
love that
movie.
movie. You've seen it?
Yes, I've seen it multiple times.
I'm very impressed.
But I didn't realize I was staying at the Turtle Bay and I didn't realize that was the hotel. And someone at like the concierge or whatever had mentioned it. And I was like, I should have watched this movie before I got here. But it's a really cool place to stay if you want to escape the hustle and bustle of the city side of the island. If you do stay anywhere on the North Shore, it's definitely worth getting a rental car if you plan on just hopping around and doing hikes and a lot of exploring that you won't book through tour groups. So consider a rental car. Now, for options in Honolulu, which is probably one of the more popular areas to stay, is like Waikiki. It just depends on how much you're willing to spend on accommodations. So there's the Royal Hawaiian, which is the Pink Palace, and you can't miss it while you're on Waikiki. It's a really beautiful building. And then another one is the Moana Surfrider. That's a Westin property. But if those are out of your price range, because they do span from $350 to $400 a night, there are some hostels that are more in the range of $100 to $50 a night in Waikiki, just depending on season and what you're looking for. Now, things to do. I went on a lot of hikes this time around on Oahu, so I'm going to list out my recommendations for hikes and then other ones that I haven't done that would be cool to go back and visit and check out. But the first one that I think is the most popular is Diamond Head, given its location in Honolulu. It's about 10 to 15-minute drive from Waikiki, which makes it really accessible if you're staying in that area. I heard a lot of people were taking Ubers to get to that hike, so because they were staying there. But to hike Diamond Head, this is the dun dun dun. You have to book a reservation, and that costs $5 per person. And
You have to pay to walk?
I knew, yes, you do have to pay to walk
They
to
should
hike
pay
Diamond
me to go
Head.
on hikes. That's ridiculous. Pay to fucking go on a hike.
Well, that's if you're not a resident of the state of Hawaii. So if you
Ah,
live in Hawaii, it's free. But if you don't, and most people are tourists visiting Diamond Head, you do have to pay and book a reservation. The reservations are seemingly new. I didn't have to do that the first go around. So book online, book your hour time slot that's where you can enter within that time frame. It won't take you more than an hour in most cases, but just good to know because there was an older group in front of us who was real pissed that they had to book a reservation. And they're like, since when? It wasn't on the website. I'm like, you didn't read the website. Anyways, the trail itself is pretty well maintained. It almost feels like it's built for tourists because I really think it is. There's water fountains and bathrooms and like water bottle vending machines at the trailhead. And then there's a bunch of benches and resting spots throughout. The first portion is pretty well paved, and then the rest of the trail is a tad rocky. There's some stairs, and then there's a tunnel near the end. All in all, it might take you 30 to 45 minutes to complete. I think it's one of the easier hikes that is out there on the island. So, and a good one too. Nice views of the city and the water. The next hike, Coco Crater, made me question if I even liked hiking because I don't really consider this hike an actual hike. My idea of hiking is there's some elevation, then it levels out. Then there's some, then it levels out. And then, it's challenging at times, but you have a minute or two to catch your breath. Yeah, that's not the case with Coco Crater. It just goes straight up. You do get, though, some spectacular views of the shoreline, the bay, and the nearby island of Molokai. But to get to the top means that you have to walk over 1,000 steps. And it's not like, oh, I'm walking up a staircase of steps. No, no, no. This is an abandoned railroad. So you're stepping on those the ties that cut across the tracks. And these were used in World War II to transport supplies to the lookout post at the top, and they still exist today. So why not climb them? Just know that if you're still up for the challenge after all of that, that about halfway up, a portion of the there's a portion, they call it the bridge, where there's just no ground beneath you anymore. So the tracks just go above ground. You do have a bypass where you can go around it and then keep walking up. But on the way down, I decided, hey, let's just walk down the bridge part because I'll be fine. No, I was not fine. Like 3 steps in, I thought, if I fall, I'm going to be very injured by this. And Rose like, you wouldn't die. I'm like, no, I just really hurt myself. I did fall twice on this hike, which sucked. And I had 2 big ass bruises on my ass. Like,
Oh, you
I'd say
fell you fell on your ass on a hike? You not like
walking. So coming down a hike is always harder for me than going like
oh,
they're 2 separate challenges, right? Like going up is the exhaustion of like breathing, keeping a good pace, whatever. Going down, I never feel, and I have good shoes. I never feel like I have enough footing, and there's a lot of just gravel and shit that you can slip on. So, and there's fucking people running down at any hike. There's people running down like it's a
right.
fucking competition. So I go slow and I just busted ass 2 times, and I wanted to cry and I didn't cry, but Roy's like, you good? I'm like, oh, I'm not going to be a bitch, but this fucking hurts. And then, yeah, big ass black bruises on my ass. So anyways, if that sold you, Coco Crater is the hike or climb for you. Okay, next is Waimea Valley. This is actually a historical site where a lot of movies have been filmed. And Adam, I think this is more your pace. It's a paved trail filled with beautiful plants that lead to a waterfall that you can swim in. And it's about a 20-minute walk. So once you get down there, you'll put on a life vest and then you can swim in the water. Yes, you do have to put on a life vest to swim in the falls because it's kind of dangerous. Not really dangerous, but just as a safety
What happened to
precaution.
Darwin? Just, if you can't handle it, you die. Like I feel like that's just a better way to handle the population than make someone wear a life vest.
Yeah. Well, and then this one too, which you might like or not like. It's a $25 fee to enter, because it is a historical site and protected park, and it's more than just a regular hike. They have other things there. If you plan on getting in the waterfall, potentially bring water shoes. Some of the rocks are sharp and slippery, and someone also said when I went there that the water has magical properties. The minerals, from what they always say, that could be true. Whatever. I don't know. I didn't test the water.
It sounds neat, but here's the other thing, and I don't know if you think about this, but I always think about this. Going there sounds great, and then you get in the water, and then you have to walk back 20 minutes with wet shorts or wet shoes, and then just like the rubbing and the chafing, and oh, that just sounds terrible.
It's hot. You'll heat up pretty fast. It'll be fine. Or bring a towel with you in your backpack and then dry off if you know you're going to get in the waterfall.
Yeah.
Okay, other hikes to consider. I'm just going to hit these real quick. There's the Lani Kai there's the Lani Kai pillbox, and then there's a bunch of other pillboxes throughout the island because of the war. They built all of those to protect the island, so you can climb all of those on trails. There's the Stairway to Heaven, which is technically illegal to climb. The one Roy wanted to do the entire trip that I said, go right ahead. It's apparently hard. You can get fined if you get stopped by someone up there, which I don't know how likely that is. I don't know how heavy the fine is. And yeah, so there's Stairway to Heaven, which they're going to close in the next year. And then there's Manoa Falls, which I hear is also a really good one as well. So, okay, places to visit. So we already talked about how I went on a sunset cruise. So there's that sunset cruise option, which is $70 to $80 depending on the cruise line, or not cruise line, but the catamaran ride that you book. And then there's snorkeling. So we booked the Holokai snorkeling, which was around $120 per person. And they took us out of Waikiki, and then you can snorkel and see a bunch of turtles. They take you over a cove where they like clean the turtles off, and it's pretty cool. Just know that turtles are federally protected. So do not touch the turtles. Do not try to take, you can take pictures of the turtles, but don't try to do any dumb tourist shit with the turtles because it's illegal. And just swim away from them if they swim towards you. And honestly, I was like, get the fuck away, get the fuck away. But it was really cool seeing them regardless. And then another thing to check out, this is another tour we booked, was Kualua Ranch. We did an ATV tour. It was about $145 per person, which is pretty pricey, but it was my favorite thing that we did. And we got pretty dirty. Just they give you a mask to wear, and head goggles and all of this shit. But if you're in the back of the pack, you're just kicking up dust. So we were covered. But this area is 4,000 acres of property, and they've filmed Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, George of the Jungle, a lot more. It's really cool. They do have some of the old set stuff there too. And they're like, this is where Chris Pratt did this thing with the Raptors. And I'm like, I don't really care. But it was a really beautiful place. Definitely worth
Have you ever
checking out.
seen George of the Jungle?
I have.
Wow, that blows my
Yeah.
mind. I would not think that's a movie you ever would have seen.
George. Yeah, I know.
Wow,
That's
you know
one.
the
That's
theme song even.
Yeah, I
That's
watched that a
impressive.
lot as a kid, surprisingly.
Okay, well,
So I
I
don't know
haven't.
if it's a kid movie, but it felt like a kid
Kind of. It's a
kind of.
dumb goofy movie. So it's pretty good for kids.
When she was sleeping with her hand like this and she closed it with whatever jewelry he put in, I was like, oh, that's so lovely. I don't know. Should I remember as a kid? Anyways, another thing to check out if you're wanting to get a history lesson while you're on the island is Pearl Harbor. So there are a couple paid things you can do within the area. You could like take a boat ride and watch a movie, and the boat ride takes you to the USS Arizona, and you can walk on that and pay your respects there. And then there's also you can get on one of the ships and tour all of that. Those cost around like $20 to $30. We didn't do that. We just walked through the free areas to learn more about that day and the events leading up to December 7th, 1941. I actually took a lot away from it. I didn't realize. So the admiral who from Japan who attacked on Pearl Harbor went to Harvard, you know, years before and lived in the United States and was against Japan fighting against the United States and was against the attacks. So Japanese military started tracking him and basically keeping a close watch on him. And then he was like, okay, I guess we're going to do it. Like, I think this is a bad idea. We're not going to win long term. Da 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 da. And, you know, he was the one who orchestrated the attacks, but he didn't really want to do it.
Interesting. I don't have
What?
anything else to add, but that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, that was I mean, I've been there before, but I thought
Yeah.
I didn't read that. And I was like, did you catch that? So something cool. Let's talk about where to eat. So there are a variety of new dishes to try while you're in Hawaii. My favorite is spam musubi, which is a portable smack. Your face.
that was an that was a
That was a
completely
ew
I
spam.
couldn't even just the sound of it just made my face make that.
God, it's so good. And I don't even eat red meat. And I ate this not realizing spam is pork or red meat. And I was like, shit, but this is so good. And I just kept eating it. But it's a Japanese snack of rice balls wrapped in seaweed and then stuffed with some flavorful ingredients. Yeah, definitely get one. We got like shrimp tempura and avocado on top of it. It was very good. Another thing to try is the Dole pineapple with soft serve. You can find that on Waikiki or at the Dole Plantation. There's poke, which is a great beachside lunch if you want to grab something quick. And there's a lot of spots throughout the island to try. Then there's shave ice. I thought it was called shaved ice. It's shave ice. So it's a little bit different than what you would think. It's not like all the flavors on, like they still put flavors on top, but there's other ingredients they add to it. There's malasadas, which is basically Hawaii's version of a donut without the hole, and then, you know, fish tacos, which that's pretty self-explanatory. As far as places to eat, I think it's called Moana Cafe. It's right next to Coco Crater. They had a really great spot to grab breakfast in that area and some of the best coffee that I had, just coffee and regular creamer. Amazing. If you're in the mood for some poke, you can try out Hawaii Sushi by the Diamond Head Trail, or you can try Ken's Fresh Fish in the northern part of the island. And then another cool spot to mention is the Sunrise Shack, where you can order acai bowls and smoothies. There's one on the North Shore, and I think there's one closer to Honolulu. But probably you're going to Hawaii for beaches to visit. So let's just hit up some of the cool ones to visit. Waikiki, you're probably going to visit if you're staying in that area. Pretty much the obvious first stop for relaxing on beaches. Just avoid my vomit wherever I buried that there. But I don't really think it's that relaxing. There was a homeless guy who stole people's chairs while they were in the water and just like camped out on there. We saw a lot of weird shit on Waikiki when we were walking around there. So found it like really cramped, really touristy, not as relaxing. So check out the restaurants and shops in the area. If you're looking for like a nice relaxing beach day, I have a couple of other options. There's better ones out there. If you're going to the North Shore side and you're wanting to just like hang out on the beach, not necessarily swim, I would say Halawea. Probably mispronounced that because the W's actually, fun fact, the W's are pronounced like V's, so it's Waikiki, or like it's just pronounced differently. But this beach is a big surfer beach. So if you want to see people surf waves, especially from November through February, which is like the peak season because of all the swells, this is the place to go. Right next to it is Lani Akia, which is a popular spot for catching turtles hanging out on the beach. Another one that's not really where you would swim, but just to check out. There's other beaches to visit. There's Lani Kai Beach, which is like the top of my list. It was recommended from our waiter as the most relaxing, the most beautiful beach on Oahu. I will say there aren't many waves there. We did see a lot of turtles just in the wild, so bring your snorkeling gear and hang out there. I would say that's probably I agree with him, like the best beach. The ones near Lani Kai are probably the best. And for tourist traps to avoid, just don't go to the. You can go, but the Dole Plantation I found to be kind of a tourist trap, and I kind of find Waikiki to be the same. So if you're into that and you want to check it out, definitely check it out. But there's other things to do on the island that feel more part of like Hawaiian culture than those two places, in my opinion. Like Waikiki, there was a Denny's, a cheesecake, and a Red Lobster. And I'm like, okay. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, that's what I have to recommend if you go to Oahu any time of the year.
Fantastic. That's I like you do have a note in here that says that the touristy side of Waikiki feels like an elevated version of Daytona
I
Beach,
didn't want
which
to say that out loud, but
no,
like
I like.
it just felt
Yeah,
not great to me. Like I've
yeah,
been to nicer beaches and there are nicer beaches on Oahu. It's like, okay, Waikiki.
yeah, absolutely. Is the White Lotus? Isn't that what was the first season on in Hawaii? Was it take
It
place
was
in Hawaii?
Hawaii. I think they filmed it on Maui. Or
Oh,
like it's
okay,
set in Maui, I
okay,
believe.
okay. Well, there we go. That's what to see with Sarah G in Oahu, Hawaii, and we're gonna go ahead and take a quick break. And when we come back, we're gonna get into the topic of marriage, the institution of marriage.